So it seems that I'm talking about the Portland Trailblazers again, as they got Enes Kanter, and this one is similar to the Markieff Morris thing for the Thunder, where when I initially thought about it, I wasn't too excited about it, but number one, it happened, so I figure talk about it. Number two, maybe this could be a little more interesting than I initially believed, because Enes Kanter, while of course his pick and roll defense is what it is, the Blazers' style of defense is maybe the one thing that could actually hide a bad defensive center, just because their entire game plan is make the opposing team shoot mid-range jumpers. I mean, the proper way for Enes Kanter to defend pick and rolls was always for him to back up, and the Blazers already like to do that. So if there's perhaps a world where it's possible for Enes Kanter's lack of being able to defend in space can actually be hidden, perhaps it is in Portland for a team that defensively has never had one guy who's really been awesome, but they've managed to be decent this year and last year because the game plan's just pretty alright, where it's, you know, guards fight as hard as you can around screens, bigs back up just enough, and just dare teams to take like 17-footers and things like that, and it's actually kind of worked. Now, will they have a chance against the shooting bigs of the Western Conference, like Nikola Jokic and DeMarcus Cousins and LaMarcus Aldridge? Maybe if Mike Muscala gets more playing time for the Lakers, they're definitely going to have trouble there. But they were going to have trouble there anyway, because between Jusuf Nurkic, who certainly better than Kanter but not great at that, and then Zach Collins, who can probably do that, defend those type of bigs, but he doesn't give you what Nurkic and Kanter give you. I don't know. There was never going to be a perfect trade-off there. So I guess with that applied, yeah, I can see why the Blazers would be like, let's take a swing on Enes Kanter, because I think what Kanter gives you that even Jusuf Nurkic doesn't is a really good finisher. Because for all Jusuf Nurkic likes to do is, you know, proclaiming himself as this tough guy and everything, he's kind of a wimp when it comes to finishing at the rim. He shoots a lot of like floaters, and he never puts his entire body into a guy who's defending him at the rim, whereas Enes Kanter does that pretty much every single time he gets the ball. Now, I should give Nurkic some credit. I think he's been better at not doing that this season, but even so, I think it pops up every now and then. But with that being said, I think Nurkic is still better, because defensively, Kanter's defense is what it is, even with everything I've already said with the way the game plan might be able to help him out and all that. If we can get to the rebounding, the Blazers are already great there. They're second in the league in rebounding percentage, 7th in defensive, 3rd in offensive. So if anything, they're strengthening a strength, which doesn't hurt, because if you can be so overwhelming on the offensive boards, that can make an impact, you know? And especially because Portland's offense, looking at the way they've performed in the playoffs, they typically have a tough time where teams find ways to dare the guys besides CJ and Dame to make shots. And if a few extra missed shots are going to end up in the hands of Enes Kanter, then that's certainly not a bad thing. It would also be cool, or it will be cool, to see how Kanter plays with Dame and CJ, because he's a really good screen setter. He may even be better than Nurkic in that regard. And, of course, with just how relentless he is at finishing around the rim and being able to tip in his own missed shots and all that, that could be a source of some real offense. Of course, CJ and Dame, both very good pull-up shooters, so we could see some more Dame threes off the pick and roll, and he loves taking those shots anyway, and CJ is one of the more crafty mid-range guys in the league, so there's certainly some room for their offense to get a little better there. As far as if Kanter, who's he going to be playing with, I don't know, because even in the last 15 games, Stotts has still been sticking to the CJ and Dame play together thing. I mean, their 4 to 5 most used lineups feature those two in the game, so it seems like he still wants to do that, but there have been little sprinklings of a couple lineups here and there where they don't play together, so I would hope that he's just playing with one of these guys most of the time, because if it's not them, then Sure, he can help out Rodney Hood and Evan Turner and whoever setting screens, but I mean, the Evan Turner, Enes Kanter pick and roll doesn't exactly sound devastating, so there's all that. What could be interesting is if Stotts plays Kanter and Nurkic together. Now, I'm going to bet that doesn't happen because it might be impossible to score at that point. Sure, your rebounding would be wild, I just don't know if the spacing would be a thing. But we have seen when teams go really big, they can still be kind of alright defensively, even if the guys who are actually in there are not the best. And there is a chance that Kanter, I guess it would be Kanter at the 5 and Nurkic at the 4, or maybe if there's another dude on the other team who can't shoot, then you have one of them quote-unquote defend that guy, but really just stand in the paint. Maybe it could work, but there's certainly room for that to go horribly on defense. But hey, we did see the Spurs have trouble with Kanter and Steven Adams in that one series against OKC at some point that I don't remember. So I guess it could be possible, but I have my reservations on that one. The Blazers, as of right now, are playing the Rockets in round 1. The difference between the 5th seed and the 8th seed is 1.5 games, so if that ends up changing, not going to be surprised. And Houston's only 2 games back of Portland, but that would be a tough series for Kanter to play in for obvious reasons. But if it was against the Jazz, I think he could have a chance. If it was against San Antonio, maybe. I think if you have Aldridge at center, then you can really mess with Kanter, but I guess that's a possibility. Yeah, I mean, it'll be a team-by-team thing where he could survive against some, not against others. And that is pretty much all I've got. Do I think that this raises the Blazers' needle at all? I mean, sure. Do I think it's the difference between them winning a playoff series they otherwise would not have won? Probably not. Unless Kanter defensively just ends up being a lot better than he's been throughout his entire career. But at the same time, I think it's a good move because the Blazers are not... I don't even know if they're paying him much of anything. According to Basketball Reference, he doesn't have a salary for the Blazers. And he's not going to be here after this season. So, I mean, hey, not a bad move. You know, you might as well take a little swing for it. I do wish the Blazers were a little more aggressive on the market because I think the takeaways being Rodney Hood and Enes Kanter, I mean, they're certainly NBA players, but you wish that a team that had a guy who was as good as Damian Lillard, whose contract is up after 2021, to be a little more aggressive. Granted, Dame did just have some quotes where it kind of implied that he's pretty open to staying here, but a lot of things can change over a couple of years, so yeah. Enes Kanter.